We're breaking down the 2026 NFL draft with a mock draft and draft odds. And we're going to get into the Australian game because we're joined by someone from the land and down under. But before we get into everything, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. As always, I'm wearing something from the merch store. Is our 100% USDA man t-shirt. Shout out to Matt Millen. You can get that as well as everything else at the merch store. 15% off sale right now. You can change the color of any of these shirts. You can get these shirts in long sleeve, hoodie, women's tank top, and infant onesie. We also have mugs. We have our famous apron. We have playing cards now. We have a mouse pad. We have baseball caps. We have blankets and baby bibs. So much more. Like I said, 50% off sale right now. You go to Amazon, buy my books. The most recent one is Jerks of the College Years, where I made fun of these wonderful people you can see on the book cover. And my first book was a safety and a field goal, which is a top 5 topic book about the NFL. Mostly serious stuff, but some fun stuff too. The most popular topic in that book is what ifs. You know, like I did a what if the Niners drafted Aaron Rodgers, for example. So you can read all about that there. And please consider super chats and super stickers out there. I didn't mean to go there, but that's the thumbnail for the show. Please consider super chats and super stickers. That is the best way to support the show. Please help us get over the poverty line. You could do that with a super chat or a super sticker. It would be greatly appreciated. But we are joined today by Ben Wasley of FFDFantasyFootball.com, one of the most accurate fantasy football rankers in the world. Ben, how are you? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been like 9 months or something like that. I couldn't stay away. I needed to come back finally. It's been too long, but really excited about the upcoming draft. Been way too busy with other stuff, but now it's 100% draft season. I am excited.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. I'm excited too. I'm also stressed out because it always feels like I'm behind at this stage of the draft season. We got 2 weeks to go until we have draft night. And I feel like I need to do a million things and I'm like panicking. I don't know. It always works out. But at this stage, I'm always stressed out. Do you feel that way?
Oh, look, this happens every single year where you look at the calendar and all of a sudden it's like, how am I going to get this right within the next 2 weeks? There's so much to do. I've got plenty of bets to lay. I've got to make sure this mock is exactly accurate, or it never turns out to be accurate, but at least is the best I can do. And then you've got to write a heap of stuff as well. And I only have to do 30% of the stuff you have to do. So I don't know how you do it.
I don't know either. It just happens. It feels like little elves at night, like do all the work, and then I just wake up and obviously not that, but it feels like there are a million things I need to do. And you're right. It's like always stressed out that I'm gonna like miss something, and it's gonna be draft day. I'm like, oh man, I can't believe I forgot to do that. I don't know. I don't know how I get through it. But I talked about the story where I was going in 2018. I was getting married in late May. And I had my niece's birthday, and my aunt comes up to me and she's like, "Are you ready for the big day?" And I'm like, "Not really." She's like, "Why?" I'm like, the NFL draft is so soon. I have so much to do." And she's like, "Walt, I was talking about your wedding." that's how it feels to me, you know, with all this stuff. And to me, it was a mental block. I had to get over it. And after the draft, I could fully concentrate on the wedding, and obviously that worked out too. So anyway, so we are going to break down the draft, but before we do, and your name actually came up a couple of times in the recent months when the Australian game was announced, because I remember thinking when the logistics of it were revealed, we're thinking like, oh, I wonder what Ben thinks about this, because you're the only Australian guest we've had on the show, and you're your teacher. So this is well, for those of you who don't know, the Australian game is going to be a Thursday night game in America, but it's going to be Friday morning in Australia. Is it 10 or 10:30 a.m. local time for you? Do you?
Yeah. I mean, it'll be 9:30 for me, but 9:30 for me, but it'll be 10:30 down there in Melbourne. So okay. It'll be an early morning game, which is going to be very difficult for everyone to get to. I think we're all going to be fighting for Thursday night flights, and I'm trying to get ourselves all sorted out and all accidentally being sick on Friday.
So you're just gonna call out? That's it.
Maybe going a minute on air. I anticipate going to work on Friday. Oh no, I'm sick. Yeah, I don't know. We'll work something out.
So you have to take a flight to this then. How far away is this for you? from where you were?
I mean, it's a good 2-hour flight, sort of.
Okay.
So I'm in Brisbane, which is basically as far east as you could go, and it's in Melbourne, which is like south, like directly above Tasmania. So it's a fair old flight. If I were to drive it, it would probably take 2 days, sort of.
Wow.
So it's a good 1,500 miles south from where I am.
Wow. I'm so uncultured. I figured everything was like right next to each other down there. But no, that's pretty crazy. So how did you react to this this 9:30 a.m. local start time for you, 10:30 in Melbourne, but still seems so early though. And if for me, it just feels like the purpose of this game is to get more fans in Australia to watch football, American football. But you have it that early, is that really going to get that much hype? I mean, I know the tickets are sold out and stuff, but I don't know. If I were in Australia, I'd be pissed off, honestly.
It's a bit weird because ultimately they were always going to have to put the game on in a morning to get anyone interested in America, because otherwise our evening games or our afternoon games are going to be on at like 4 a.m. for you guys. So it was always going to be a difficult situation. They had to prioritize the American audience. But as a result, it does mean that people who are going to the game are people that would have been interested in the NFL already. And there are a lot of those in Australia. American football is very popular, especially among younger people in Australia. And I'm sure a lot of the people going are existing fans. I guess their priority is just to try to get people talking about it in the Australian media. But I'm not really sure at all why they're even bringing a game to Australia. It's not like it's a massive growth area. We don't have a huge population. Our population is smaller than 3 American states. So
Wow.
It's not like this is a massive market for them. So I don't understand fully why they're doing it, but I'm really glad they did, because this is my best opportunity in the near future to actually see a live NFL game. So I'm very keen for it.
Oh yeah, I imagine obviously with the sold out tickets, I imagine a lot of people are excited about it. I would just be angry that they're putting it so early, because like I said, it's not, they're still catering to the American public here. So like, what's the point? Like, why would you just air the game in Australia? And I know that like, yeah, you can go to the game and stuff, but I don't know how much it's going to build there, because it feels like to me the people who are already fans of it, like you are still going to be fans. But the people who weren't, are they going to get up at 7 a.m. to drive to the stadium for a game on a workday? Seems weird, right? I don't know.
It makes very little sense, and I can't imagine that it's going to get a particularly large Australian viewing audience, because everyone's going to be at work on a Friday morning.
Yeah.
It really is, I think, just about getting the media talking about it more than anything else, and kind of getting it into the Australian conscience a little bit. I imagine there's going to be a whole lot of stuff on like news programs and like morning news and all that sort of stuff that's going to be the thing that's kind of like driving the attention, rather than people actually going to the game or watching the game.
Yeah. I was also asked to ask you, are there any holidays on a Friday in the fall? Because at that, it would make sense for the game to be aired then, because if people have off on Friday, they can still air the Thursday night game here. You guys have off, so it wouldn't matter. I guess I could Google what Australian holidays there are,
Yeah.
but I was told to ask you. So
I mean, it's a bit complicated because Australia doesn't have many federal national holidays. Most of our holidays are state holidays. So the holidays up where I am in Queensland would be different to the holidays in Victoria where the game is. And most of our holidays tend to be on Mondays. As a general rule, no. It would be very difficult for them to try to do that. They basically need to create a public holiday to make that happen, because we don't have any on Fridays at all, essentially.
Football day, just make it for some reason.
Well, there is a public holiday in Victoria for when the Australian rules grand final is. So even though it's on a Saturday, there's a public holiday after that just to compensate for it. That happened at times. So I mean, it's not out of the question, but it would never happen.
Then make it a Sunday night game, as Bagley's saying. I guess that would make more sense on the Monday holiday. I was told in the chat that there is a Friday holiday in Australia, but maybe that was fake news.
It's not in my state. I'll put it that way.
Okay, that makes sense. From a quick search, these Labor Day, first Monday in October would do the trick. Yeah, I guess they could do that. They could put the bye weeks before, and then, or I guess after. They do the bye weeks after, and they would have that Sunday Night Football Monday for you guys. I feel like I said this before. I don't know. Maybe see what you agree. To me, it's Goodell just wanted an Australia game, and he was like, people are like, "How are we going to do it?" And he's like, "I don't know, just figure it out." and his like staff was like scrambling to figure out how they do it, and they decided to. First of all, they're going to have the Wednesday start game, which is so annoying for the preparation of the season, and then the Thursday game just didn't. It feels like this wasn't thought through properly. I don't know. Is that the sense you got at all?
Yeah, it all feels a little bit strange and a little bit rushed. Like even the whole ticket buying thing was a little bit of a nightmare. I mean, it's always a nightmare trying to get tickets going and stuff like that. But like when we went to buy tickets, we were told a rough price range of how much the tickets were going to be, and they were not that price at all. I think mine ended up costing me about 600 Australian dollars, which would be what, 400 and something US dollars. But most of the advertising had it in the $100 range.
Wow.
So now, to be fair, I did end up with pretty good tickets. They're kind of like 10 rows back towards one of the end zones, but it's also difficult because it's on a circular ground. So it's an Aussie rules oval, which is significantly larger, like nearly twice the area of an American football field. So most of the people are going to be a long way away from the game as well.
It's not good. It's another thing to make Australians pissed off. That's awesome though. Is that you got great tickets. Not the price, but I always say that like life is just memories, and you're always going to remember going to this game. Exactly. Was it 600 per ticket or 600? I don't know if you're going someone like was that the overall price?
No, it's 600 per ticket. So it was 600 for me, 600 for my partner, and I had a friend who booked it because I have had no internet over the last 3 days. So between the three of us, it's 600 per ticket, and then obviously I have to get flights down there, and then accommodation for some people. Luckily, I've got somewhere to stay. But it's going to be a very expensive outing for quite a few people.
Yeah. Like Bag was saying, you can't put a price on some things. That's true. Yeah, and who knows? This might be the only one that they have. I didn't mind the Australian game. I just think that like the logistics of having an early game for you guys, that was stupid. I also don't like that it's a divisional game. Like it's like this could really decide the NFC West. It's obviously Seattle still, but maybe what if Seattle takes a step back and it's Niners versus Rams, and I believe this is the Rams giving up their home game, and like what if the Rams lose out by one game because they lost their home game, and then they have this neutral site game against the Niners. I just didn't think that was right. I thought that like just have a new non-divisional or even non-conference game. If it's like I don't know who the Rams opponents are, but like theoretically you could do Rams versus Broncos or something. Another team for the western part of the country. I thought that would have made more sense. I don't know. Any thoughts on that? Like this being a divisional game, or maybe that makes it more exciting for you guys.
I do wonder, I don't know why, but there do seem to be an inordinately high amount of 49ers fans in Australia. Okay. And I don't know what it is, but like a lot of the casual fans are either 49ers, but like you still get a lot of like Raiders fans and things like that because they're less of a team and more of an entity. But you get a surprising amount of 49ers fans. A lot of the casuals I know basically just support the 49ers for no particularly good reason. So I suspect that's part of the reason. And I guess for whatever reason they wanted to get two reasonably good teams out here. But I guess the real question is, would it have been that hard to hold it on our Saturday, your Friday night? Like there've been Friday night games plenty of times in certain situations. That feels like that wouldn't have hurt too much. So I'm surprised they didn't consider that.
It's actually the 1961 Broadcasting Act that they can't broadcast Friday night games in America unless it's before a certain time or on a holiday or before I would say the second Sunday in September. It's very restrictive, and it's a very weird law because it predates the Super Bowl in 1961. It's to protect high school football, but it was I mean, it's what 64 years ago, 65 years ago. Like, what? just it predates Super Bowl. I mean, like, I don't know. It seems ridiculous. I think they should probably do something about it. I'm sure Goodell would love it, but I don't know. I mean, the people who wrote the legislation are no longer with us, so should probably look at it. I think so. That was the only reason why they couldn't do it.
Yeah,
so
makes sense.
Yeah, Halsey or Halsey going. Is the memory of attending a game so different than the idea of attending a game? Is the memory so different than an idea? That's some deep thinking there. It is. It's an interesting topic to discuss. We have a lot to get to with the NFL draft, so we won't be on that route. But maybe tomorrow with Tom, we could talk about it because we talk about random stuff. And then on the opposite end of deep thinking, we have fantasy receipts saying, Ben, you're live with a bigot. Congratulations, Ben. Walter hates women, which is weird because I have a wife and daughter. It'd be weird for me to hate women. It says Ben Run. This guy is a bit of a clown, but
sounds like a fan.
Oh yeah, I think he genuinely likes us. I mean, he follows me, or at least or he pays attention to what I say on Twitter. So, I mean, I don't know. It's all fun. This guy doesn't seem to know what jokes are, but it's okay. Most teams hate playing in the Broncos international games. It's thought that altitude gives them a preparation advantage. Yeah, I mean, it depends. I guess you mean for Mexico games. So that's high altitude for the Broncos. I do remember, Ben, you saying that there were a lot of Raiders fans in Australia. So like Niners Raiders would have made a lot of sense, or Rams Raiders would have made a lot of sense too. So
absolutely.
I guess, I mean, if those are the two most popular teams, maybe you guys should have done that. And yeah, there's something to be said about teams being competitive, but the Raiders should be better this year. With Mendoza and whatnot, and they added Tyler Linderbaum, and we'll see what they do in the draft. And speaking of which, we can get to your mock draft here, which I have on the screen. And at the top, the Raiders have taken Mendoza. We had a kind of a discussion back a couple of months ago with Tom. I mean, he and I love to find like long shot odds. And we were thinking, oh, what if Mendoza doesn't want to go to Las Vegas because he's so religious, and Las Vegas is Sin City, and I'm like, well, betting's legal everywhere now, so I didn't think that was going to be an issue, but he was learning the Raiders playbook already, so he's going to be locked in with the pick. But I wanted to ask you, what were your thoughts on Kirk Cousins going there? Like, how do you see that situation playing out, and do you think that the Raiders made a good decision with that?
I think it's totally logical. I think too much of the time we see teams get their rookie in and all of a sudden they're under a heap of pressure to play them straight away because they've got some mediocre backup who's tanking the team immediately. Mm-hmm. I really like the idea of bringing in someone that he can learn from, someone that they can play immediately and give Mendoza a little bit of time to kind of get acclimatized before they immediately bring him into things. We know with Kirk these days he's going to be injured after 3 or 4 games anyway, so it's kind of like a perfect transition period. For that to work. I guess it's the archetype of what they did with Mahomes in KC, and we saw that worked, and we've seen how many times it's not worked to just give your rookie the immediate start. So I do like the idea, and it's what I would have done if I were, for whatever reason, a GM or in charge of one of these teams, is to bring in someone who's actually a reliable quarterback and get them to start first. And I hope that's what they're doing rather than just having Kirk riding the bench.
I would think so. I feel like the only way that wouldn't happen is if Mendoza is just special in the preseason training camp, kind of like Russell Wilson was with Matt Flynn. But I could see this playing out with like how the Eagles did McNabb. They had Doug Peterson start, I think, 9 weeks, and then McNabb came in and at the end. I do hope that Mendoza plays a little bit, though. I don't want to see like an Alex Smith situation where Mahomes only plays the final game of the regular season, which was meaningless for the playoffs. I think it would be a shame to not give him any reps, although, I mean, it worked out for Mahomes, but I just want to see Mendoza play. It feels like starting Cousins the whole year is kind of like a waste of time, because how it differs for the Chiefs were a playoff team with Alex Smith. Whereas, with the Raiders, we assume are not going to be. So I do like that Cousins knows the system. He knows Kubiak's system from the time in Minnesota. He'll be able to help teach that to Mendoza. And having an experienced guy in the film room should be pretty valuable too, because the only quarterback they had before that signing on the roster was Ian O'Connell. So they needed some veteran leadership there. And then at 2, you have Arvo Reese. 3, you have David Bailey. So Reese was the favorite for a while to go 2. And Bailey 3 as well. And then it flipped. Actually, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Bailey is now the favorite to go 2. Reese is now, I don't know if he's the favorite to go 3, but his odds have definitely increased. And we'll look at the odds later. How do you, I mean, you have Reese here, but like, how confident are you in this, or do you think this can go either way?
I think it can absolutely go either way. I think people just kind of got locked into Reese because of that kind of echo chamber effect of a lot of people early on saying it was likely to be Reese, and everyone just kind of tagged onto it for no particularly good reason. I think they're both faulted prospects with plenty of reasons to have limited concern, but we know how talented they both are. So it's ultimately going to come down to what the Jets decide fits their system best and the player they believe is most likely to turn into what they need. And I think ultimately it's really hard for any of us to know what that's going to be. So I think it will. I think it will ultimately become clear at some point in time. The Jets have no reason to hide this at all. So with Mendoza pretty much a lock, it wouldn't surprise me if a week out or a few days out, we know exactly who the Jets are likely to take if they've made a decision by then.
Yeah, I suspect you're right. It'll be more interesting for the betting odds. I did bet Bailey to go 2 and Reese to go 3. But they weren't big bets, and that's why I didn't announce it. I was waiting on to see if Charlie Campbell had anything on it. I didn't text him because the odds just like flipped like crazy today. So didn't really get a chance to do that. I just wanted to get like small bets in there. It's nothing substantial. So I will be talking to Charlie in the coming days to see if he has anything on this. He's had great Jets intel in the past, so hopefully we do get something out of it. Witness the Jets will take the worst player. Well, they did get a Membu last year who was pretty great. So they've had some good picks. Elijah Vera Tucker, injury wise, notwithstanding, but like Garrett Wilson is a good pick for them. Breece Hall is a good pick for them. It just feels like they only screw up with the quarterbacks. Although Sam Darnold did eventually pan out, so they just gave up on him, and then Zach Wilson didn't pan out, and it's just really the quarterbacks. Darnold signed with the Vikings for 1 year, while Falcons torched 3 seasons for Cousins. They signed Cousins, and then 60 days later they drafted Penix. Didn't really make much sense. Okay, so moving forward, number 4, you have Jeremiah Love to the Titans. This I think would surprise some people, but for those who have been paying attention to Charlie and people in the know, I think this is not a surprise. I'm looking to bet Jeremiah Love to go 4. I just want to get a little bit of confirmation from Charlie because he thinks it's going to happen. So, what do you think about this pick for Tennessee? Just because you're predicting it doesn't mean you think it's a good move. Do you think it is a good move? What would you do if you're Tennessee?
I think it depends on who's available. At one point in time, there were a lot of people, including yourself and including me, who had the cards taking a right tackle there. And I still don't think that's totally out of the question. And if that happens all of a sudden, a Reese or a Bailey becomes available for Tennessee, and that looks like a good pick. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're really inclined to take a Reuben Bain. In fact, I think there have been reports outright saying that they're not interested. I'm not sure that any of the wide receivers really fit there. So because there's no need that really fits a player that's perfect for them there, I think it makes sense to take what's essentially the best player available, which is Love. Is it a need? No. But is it going to help them in the long term, and is it going to make life easier for Cam Ward? I think probably yes. So for that reason, assuming that there's no outstanding player in their opinions, I can't imagine why they wouldn't take Love, and I think it kind of makes sense. Are you pretty locked in on the Cardinals now not taking a tackle? Because I know in your last mock you had it that way.
This is something we're going to have info on. So right now I do have Mount Ella there, but it was something that I was probably going to change. And so if Reese is available, I think he will be the pick. If it's Bailey, I'm not as confident in that. But right now we might get some better info. What I think Arizona wants to trade down though. They need a right tackle badly. They don't have a right tackle on the roster, and the thinking is that they want to get Ty Simpson later. So if they have a young quarterback who's going to start at some point this year, they need to protect him. And I saw, like people who are kind of in tune what the Cardinals know, or know what the Cardinals are going to do, projecting them to trade down to like the 10 to 13 range, and then taking like a Caleb Lamu or Max Henekor or Caden Proctor or someone like that. So I think that's what their goal is. But I think if they're stuck at 3, I think they will take Arvell Reese if he's available, or maybe to a lesser extent David Bailey. So we'll see. I mean, like I said, we'll get some more info on this, and hopefully we can turn it into profits for draft betting. But right now, we're a little too far out. Even though it's 2 weeks, teams are still finalizing their draft boards. Okay, so you have Sonny Styles 5, which makes sense. He had a great combine, and then we talked about Mawanoa going 6 to the Browns. I personally have Cardinal Tate going here. But I could really go either way. I feel like the Browns are kind of locked into tackle or receiver. I just didn't know which one they value more. Maybe it's because they can get a better receiver in the 20s or something, like a Denzel Boston or Casey Concepcion or something. What are your thoughts on what the Browns are going to do with 6 outside of your pick?
Yeah, I'm in exactly the same situation where it kind of feels like it's going to be a tackle and a receiver for the Browns. Which way round makes more sense? The more I think about it, the more I think Tate at 6 is way more likely, because they're going to be able to get a better tackle at 24 than they're going to be able to get a receiver at 24 based on who's likely to be available. I think there is a bit of a gap between the top few receivers, or top couple of receivers, depending on how you feel about Tyson, compared to the guys that you're getting afterwards. And yet I don't think there's as much of a gulf with the tackles, especially because Mawanoa might go to the Giants as well, and they might be forced into a Fanu or something like that. So because of how that's likely to play out, I think Tate ultimately is more likely, and I think he's probably who I'm going to have in my next mock.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So you have 7 Reuben Baines to the Redskins, and then Cardinal Tate to the Saints. I think that makes sense. I think Bain. I've seen Bain go as high as, in some mocks, as high as like 3. I was like, it's a little too early for him. I think that's 7 to 10 ish. I think that's where he's going to go, and you have him in that range. And then Tate, I think becoming the better receiver in this draft class, because Tyson hasn't really worked out, and Danny Jeremiah, I don't know if you saw, but he kind of hinted that Tyson is kind of a little soft or something, or just didn't practice very hard. So that could be an issue. And I've heard that like some teams really like Tyson, some teams really don't. So it's kind of a love-hate. But yeah, I like your top 8. It makes a lot of sense. Redskins taking an edge rusher. They really need Tate. Like their number 2 receiver right now is Devon Vele. Like it seems like they definitely need a receiver.
Yeah, I ultimately think that the Commanders are highly likely to take a edge rusher. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if they trade up with the Cardinals, because if they can get their hands on Reese or Bailey, that makes perfect sense. And the Cardinals, if they drop back to 7, they've got a good chance of getting Mawanoa. At least one of those top 2 guys will be there. So it kind of makes sense for both teams to make that trade. And I think it's looking more and more likely like the Saints are going to take a pass catcher of some sort there. Could be Sadiq, could be Tate, could be any of the other options around. But I think that would make sense if the right guy's there.
Yeah, you're saying Sadiq. Why Tate ahead of bigger, faster Sadiq? I just think receiver is more popular, more just prominent than tight end. It's just a much more important position. Is that what you would say?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you're getting more out of a good wide receiver in most systems, especially because one thing the Saints have is functional tight ends. It's not really a weakness for them, but they're totally lacking in wide receivers. So unless you're getting Sadiq to play a whole lot of 2 tight end sets, which is an option, the problem is your existing tight ends aren't great for their blocking. They're just functional receiving tight ends. So I just don't think it really fills the need in the same way that wide receiver does. Having said that, if they don't love any of the wide receivers, then I can imagine using Sadiq as like that big athletic move tight end.
Yeah. Kind of like the Bears did when they already had Cole Kmet and they already had Dunze and DJ Moore. Then they took Loveland, so it makes sense. Newest rumor: Cleveland is trading down to 12 or 13. Where'd you hear that? I'd love to see the story there. I think the Browns would like to trade down as well. I just don't. You just have to find a partner. And I get the sense Dallas wants to trade up because they need an edge rusher so badly, and there may not be a good one left at 12. So if they want to move up to 6 for Bain or to 3 for Bailey or Reese, I think that makes a lot of sense. Tate's the number 2 receiver. I don't know. I like him. I think that he could be a 1, maybe not like an elite one, but like a good one. Mano is a left guard. I think Fano is more of the guard type with his short arms. But anyway, let's get to the next 8 here. Yeah, speaking of Fano, you have him 9 to the Chiefs. They really need offensive line help still. And then Caleb Downs to the Bengals. I actually moved Downs to 18 in my mock draft, just citing the knee issue that's hearing like degenerative knees. For Caleb Downs. That really scares me. Plus, he's a safety. And, remember last year we were like, Malachi Starks, Sonny, and Nick Manwari, where are they going to go? Like top 20? And like they both fell out of the top 20. Manwari didn't even go in the first round. Yeah, what do you think about the Downs situation? Do you think that the knee issue could cause him to fall, or do you think that's like a non-issue?
Look, I'm surprised how much everyone is pushing safeties up drafts when we know from experience that they fall every single year. Like these guys, especially guys, I mean, not Down so much, but the other guys that are kind of being mocked as first rounders are nowhere near Emanwari, and he fell out. You were getting fantastic odds at one stage on under 2.5 safeties. You could get it at like plus 160, plus 170, which makes absolutely no sense to me. I think you're more likely to have 1 safety than 3 safeties in the first round this year.
Yeah.
So I could definitely imagine Downs falling because of the positional value, that and the fact that there's not that many teams outside the Vikings that really make sense for a safety. If you're taking a safety, it's because you believe in the talent of the player, not because it's a massive need at the position. And I could definitely imagine the Bengals taking a Delane there, for example.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they could do that, or any defensive player wouldn't make sense for them, just because they've had such big issues there. Like it feels like any offensive player would not make any sense. But yeah, best defensive player would make sense, and I think the Dolphins could take any player as long as it's not running back or quarterback, and for that to make sense. So Jordan Tyson 11. Their number 1 receiver right now is Theo Wees Jr. Who he had a couple of actually decent performances. I actually remember playing him in DraftKings in week 18. It ended up working out. I think I cashed with him somehow. But it's good memories, but you can't have Theo Wees Jr. as your number 1 receiver. If you want to have Malik Willis as you bring him in, pay him a bunch of money. He's not going to do too well there. Mansour Delane 12. So Cowboys, I had that pick as well. Mekhi Lemon to the Rams. I think I had that last week. I moved it to the Dolphins. I think I switched. I think I switched them. I think I have Tyson 13 and Lemon 11. There were some issues with Lemon's combine interviews. I don't know if you heard them. Apparently Charlie said he was very weird at the combine interviews. I have no idea what that means. I would love to know what it means. I don't know. I have no idea where to place him for that reason, because he's so talented. But on the other hand, like, if teams are turned off by him, like, what if no one likes him,
Yeah, it's a weird situation with those 2 wide receivers in particular. I mean, firstly, I want you to put some respect on the name of Malik Washington at the Dolphins.
He was such a disappointment last year, though.
Their wide receiver core is so bizarre. They went out of their way to go get Tutu Atwell, which works so well for the Rams. Like,
don't forget Jalen Tolbert too.
I mean, look, you look at where these players are coming from. They're coming from teams that need wide receivers, and they didn't keep these guys. So why are we expecting that they're going to stick at the Dolphins? It's so strange. But anyway, look, I'm struggling with Lemon versus Tyson. The more reports come out, the more it seems like Lemon is likely to be the number 2 guy, which is disappointing because I feel like Tyson could really be that number 1 for a team. And that's exactly what the Dolphins need. They need that number 1. Lemon doesn't really profile that way. I think he's going to be useful for a team, but I can imagine Tyson being a star for a team if it all clicks. And if I'm the Dolphins, you're better off taking a big swing there. It's not like you just need that one more piece to make it work. You're better off taking a risk and trying to hit big rather than going for the safe option. So I'd be disappointed if they go for Lemon. Having said that, I'll probably mock it that way.
Yeah. Howie asking, have we learned nothing from mistakenly taking Gentry in the top 10 last year? I feel the same way. Like, to me, I think a team could take a running back early if they're like really well built and ready to compete for Super Bowl, kind of like the Lions taking Jahmyr Gibbs. Just made a lot of sense. Or, in free agency, paying a lot of money for Saquon Barkley. The Eagles were a great team, and they added Barkley, and that got them over the hump, and they won the Super Bowl. When you have like a team like the Raiders last year, who had no offensive line, they just wasted a year of Gentry's career. And I feel like the same way with the Titans. Like, they're not a good team. Their offensive line is not good. It's not horrible, but it's not good. Cam Ward's a question mark. He got better as the season went on last year, but he wasn't good last year. They don't really have much at receiver outside of Wan'Dale Robinson. Shamir DK was okay. Just feels like this team needs a lot, and to use a running back, and we're going back here, but I would not grade this well. I would not grade it highly if they do indeed take Love, which I do think it's going to happen at this point, but I wouldn't like the pick personally. But
I think teams build in the wrong order ultimately. I think they often just go for whatever's shiny and exciting and gets the fan base excited, when really they need to be trying to build around a core they can rely on, and then they can bring on those players and help them to play well. So I do agree. It's all in the wrong order, and I think we've seen that happen way too many times, especially around running backs. But around a lot of positions where, unless you get your O-line sorted, there's really no point in having talented wide receivers or running backs.
Yeah, because their careers are so short. If you waste a year of their career, it's so devastating. You just can't do it. Okay, so 14, you have Kendrick Falk to the Ravens. That'd be a scary pass rush if he pans out with Trey Hendrickson there. By the way, I took Hendrickson to win Defensive Player of the Year at 50-1 odds. So like those. 15, you have Kenyon Sadiq. I have Kenyon Sadiq 14 to the Ravens, my previous update, but we had there's reports today saying the Bucs are really interested in him. So that seems like likely to happen if he's there. And then 16, Jermod McCoy. The Jets using the pick they acquired to trade for Sauce Gardner, and they get a cornerback there. So any thoughts on these final picks of the first half of the first round?
Yeah, I did exactly the same thing with KC. They trade away a cornerback and then just use the pick they acquired to get another cornerback, which has worked so well for teams in the past. But I think Sadiq, this is probably nearly his floor. It's starting to sound a lot like teams are going to be aggressive in going for him, and I feel like it makes a lot of sense for the Bucs, but plenty of things make sense for the Bucs. I think if they address that front seven on defense, that's going to help them out a lot as well. I actually really like Falk. I'm kind of surprised that he's falling in a lot of mocks. I want to put him higher. I don't really see a spot that makes a lot of sense. I think most teams have other needs ahead of getting another edge rusher, but we know that the Ravens are generally going to go for value, and I think at this point in time, Falk offers them pretty good value.
Yeah, he has a lot of upside, so they could be looking in from that angle. Okay, we get the 17 through 24, Monroe Freeling to the Lions. They lost Taylor Decker in what was a very weird exchange at the end. It was very strange. Dylan Thieneman to the Vikings. I had that pick before I dropped downs to there. And then 19, Caden McDonald to the Panthers as they continue to improve their defense. And CJ Allen to the Cowboys at 20. Any overall thoughts on these four picks here?
Firstly, I've started to think, and honestly, even 2 days after I made this mock, I was starting to think that it's probably going to be Proctor over Freeling. I think a lot of people got caught up in the Freeling excitement of him being a little bit better at the combine than expected. But realistically, I still think Proctor seems like he's the player that most teams are really excited by. To me, it doesn't really seem to be a personality fit for the Lions, and yet there's been reports to suggest the Lions really love him. So that's enough for me. So I think I'll probably have Proctor there next time, assuming he doesn't go higher. I really hate Thieneman here to the Vikings. It doesn't really make any sense. I think they're in a position to trade back because most other teams aren't going to take a safety this early, and they can get that value later on. So I think that makes sense. One thing that interests me is that you and Charlie are both really high on Peter Woods, and I've heard a lot of reports suggesting that he's going to drop and that he might not even make it in the first round. I don't really love any of the defensive tackles, but we know that one or two will go into the first round. So what's your thoughts on Woods?
Charlie's sources had him rated highly, so but I just don't know if there was like any updates to it, because that's how it was during the college football season. I mean, there could be updates to that. I'm not like locked into it, and it's not like a hot take I have that like Peter Woods is definitely going to go in the top 10 or top 15. It's just like, it's stuff that Charlie reported earlier in the draft process, but now there could be old information that we just kind of have to get rid of. But so I wouldn't read too much into it. I was just kind of like trying to mock a player who makes sense to the Bengals and maybe the best defensive player available, and that could be at this point the lane if Downs' injury is an issue, or it could be Downs if they don't care about it. We tend to get info on the Bengals as well, so I'm looking forward to that. Generally, I find that like the Bengals really kind of don't know, or they really don't know what other teams are going to do. I found, and that actually like is the case with a lot of teams. That's why like NFL GMs look at mock drafts. Like they'll look at ours and Mel Kiper's and Daniel Jeremiah's and Schrager's, etc., because like they have issues trying to figure it out, and they kind of like combine them together and like they make their own mock draft. Which is, I don't know if every team does that, but some teams they told Charlie that they do that. But the Bengals, like from what they were saying last year, they're like they had the 17th pick last year, if I remember correctly, and they're like they thought they had a chance to get Will Campbell at 17. And I think, like, what world do you guys live in? Like, like how they that unaware of the situation that's going to happen? Because like, and this is something I learned like the week of the draft, and like at that point, Will Campbell is like minus 800 to go to the Patriots. So I'm like, just look at the odds page if you don't want to look at mock drafts or something.
Crazy.
It's such a backward organization. Like if they didn't have Joe Burrow, this team would be like 3-14 every year. I mean, we saw that this year. Like, yeah, it's so bad. Anyway, Carolina the most difficult for me. Can you speak on them a little more? With Kane McDonald, I assume, or in general, just trying to predict them. Real quick, I personally think that if their owner Axe Tepper can make a pick to help Bryce Young, I think he'll do it. Because he got so embarrassed that in 2023 when Stroud was so much better than Bryce Young, that like I feel like he forced the hand last year to take McMillan. Now I don't know if he's going to do that again because Bryce Young got better, but I just think that like if it's close and they can get a good offensive player, I think they're going to do that. But it also makes sense to improve the defense, which I think they wanted to do last year, and then they were kind of forced into McMillan. So what do you think about the Panthers situation?
Yeah, look. What you've talked about for years now about Tepper trying to get things around Young to make that pick a success has played out. And we've seen it happen over and over again. They keep going first round wide receivers. They keep trying to shore up the O-line. They keep bringing in players at every offensive position. And ultimately, it's just led to a really weak defense, which was previously their strength. It wouldn't be a total shock based on the reports that are going around if they went wide receiver again. To me, that's totally insane. But there has been conversations around that. I think Sadiq would be great for them, but I can't imagine he's going to be there. So I think they're surely forced into going something defensive. And realistically, they could hit absolutely any position. I feel like this is the range where you'll see an Allen. You might see a McCoy drop or a Terrell go there. But I think D-line makes a whole lot more sense. I feel like a defensive tackle to free up Derek Brown a little bit, allow him to rush the quarterback more often, would be more functional to help their defense in general. But really, at any level, they're going to get more value out of defense than offense at this part of the draft.
I think they can go tackle because Ike Ekwonu tore his patellar tendon in the playoffs, and I'd be shocked if he plays this year. They brought in Rasheed Walker for 1 year, but like the patellar tendons have ended careers, so like he may never play well again. And then Taylor Moton's 32, so I feel like they could definitely take a tackle. So I think that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, defense, like their defense has been miserable for years, so I think that makes a lot of sense too. What do we have here? I have Sadiq going there. So yeah, I feel like this is Sadiq's floor. If somehow he falls past the Bucks and the Ravens, it would be shocking if the Panthers let him go, because you could argue best player available, fills a big need, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so the 21-24, you have Vega Wane to the Steelers. I have that as well. The Peter Woods to the Chargers makes a lot of sense. Need defense tackle. Gator Proctor to the Eagles. I think I had that pick, and then I moved Proctor up, and now I have another right tackle there. And then Denzel Boston to the Browns. So you had the tackle to the Browns at 6. Now you have them taking a receiver. I think I'd be shocked if it's not tackle receiver in some order. So yeah, what are your thoughts on these 4 picks?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about the Browns. The idea of it going receiver then tackle probably makes a little bit more sense. So I likely have that flipped. I think the Eagles are highly likely to go O-line. I know that D-line's also a possibility, but I think they're likely to get good value out of an O-lineman here and kind of get that replacement in early for Lane Johnson. The one that I find really interesting is the Steelers. I think Ioane makes sense, but he could easily be gone by then. And if he is, do they go for a guy's kind of a tackle? They're moving inside. Do they see the value at the position there? They kind of need to protect Aaron Rodgers because it's not like he can run away from pressure that effectively. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of reports, though, which confuse me about them getting a wide receiver, even though they've got both Metcalf and Pittman. So I'm not really sure why they would spend a pick on that, even though that's supposedly considered to be a relatively likely possibility.
Usually when teams sign free agents, they tend to double dip in the draft, but I agree. It doesn't seem that likely at receiver. I feel like offensive line or some sort of defense position would make more sense to me with the Steelers pick. It seems like the Lions really like Proctor from Charlie's Mocks. Could be. Just be careful if you bet anything, because sometimes Charlie's sources will say don't mock this player to us until the day of the draft. I've seen that before. So just be careful with that. But it could be the case too. Not every team tells him to do that. Ioane is -150 for over 14.5. I think it's a good bet despite the juice. I think it's a good bet. I don't think it's a lock though, because I could see like the Rams taking him, for example. But I do think probably, if I had to bet this, I would say over. Would you say the same?
I would. My concern would be the Ravens. I can imagine a situation where the Ravens want to improve on the inside of their O-line, and I think that he's so obviously the best O-lineman in this class that they might just take that best player available attitude they tend to go with and take the value.
Yeah, that's another good one too. Bengals are cheap. They had the fewest scouting department by landslide. Did you see that graphic? I don't know if I talked to you about this. I don't know if it was ESPN or NFL Network. They showed a graphic on TV, and it was a number of scouts in the scouting department by team in that division. So I don't know the exact numbers. It was like Ravens 26, Browns 25, Steelers 24. It might have been flipped. I forget. And then it was Bengals 4. 4 scouts in that organization. Like, no wonder they don't think Will Campbell is going to go top 4. They think he's going to fall to them at 17. Seems
well,
like
they're spending their whole time scouting wide receivers because they're getting Jamar Chases and T. Higgins out of thin air, and that's it. So they're doing one thing, and they're doing it very well.
They could maybe outsource, teams that suck at getting receivers, and be like, "Hey, Bengals, can you help us? We'll let you know where Will Campbell's going to go."
Yeah, we'll trade you our defensive guy. Let's do it. Yeah,
right. Philly Omar Cooper. What do you think about this? I think tackles most likely, but they could go receiver because AJ Brown seems like he's going to be on the move after June 1st. What do you think about Cooper or another receiver?
I think Omar Cooper's the kind of player that will be in a lot of conversations toward the end of the first round. I know a lot of people are mocking him even inside the top 20. I think that's a little bit rich for me. Yeah. But I just don't feel like it's the greatest need for the Eagles and how they play in general. They've got plenty of other talent. They've brought in Hollywood Brown. It's not like they're really hurting at wide receiver. They've gone very well with just 2 good wide receivers and a scrub like Dotson. So they don't desperately need 3 good wide receivers because they've got a good tight end, because they've got an excellent running back, and because their quarterback can scramble. It's not a need.
Yeah. Have you done your fantasy rankings? Because I love Devontae Smith this year.
I have, but I haven't updated them since free agency.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, I've been drafting like every single time in best ball in like the fifth round, I think. So yeah. Anyway, let's go to the final 8 picks here. You have Akeem Mesidor to the Bears. They really need an edge rusher. TJ Parker to the Bills. So they added Bradley Chubb, and now they add another. It's kind of an example of another double dipping there. Blake Miller to the Niners, and we don't know what's going to happen to Trent Williams. So that would be a big loss. I know we have Evan Daniel, who comes on the show every Thursday. He was, when they signed Mike Evans, he's like, and he's a Niners fan. He was like, if they don't have Trent Williams, it doesn't matter who could be receivers. It might as well be us. It won't matter. And then Zion Young, another edge rusher to the Texans. So very edge rusher heavy here, but it all makes sense. And some people might be like, oh, Texans have great edge rush. Why that? But, teams tend to they build strength. They build up their strengths to make sure that they're dominant in that regard. So I like that pick.
Yeah, I feel like people see 2 good edge rushes to the Texans and they just stop looking, ignoring the fact they have nothing else.
Right.
And that hasn't gone very well for teams in the past. You kind of need to rotate those players a little bit, and you need to have that talent to rotate through. And I feel like the Texans could really benefit from just having one more guy. There's a lot of teams in this range that need edge rusher, and it wouldn't surprise me if there's a little bit of a fight over those like 22 to 24 picks to try to jump up and take the edge rusher that they want. Having said that, there's also plenty of players available who could go in this range, so you can kind of sit and wait until there's only one guy you like left at that position.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see, especially if some of these guys that we predict, teams don't think that highly of them. Suddenly, there are fewer players left at this position in this range too. So, okay. So the final quartet, you have Avion Terrell, as you mentioned, the Chiefs replacing a corner with another corner. They actually lost their entire secondary. It's kind of scary. They already sucked against the pass last year, and now they lost the entire secondary, and they lost. I think they lost a couple of good players, at least. Cassius Howell to the Dolphins here at 30. Again, the Dolphins can address anything except for quarterback and running back. Caleb Lamu. So the Patriots offensive line in the Super Bowl just being like embarrassed. I think any lineman makes sense for them. And then Colton Hood to Seattle. I think Seattle's interesting. They've met with like every cornerback in this class. So it seems like they're going to go corner. But on the other hand, they have only 4 picks in this draft. So I think Seattle is very likely to trade down. And to me, I think a team like the Cardinals makes sense to move up because teams want the 5th-year option with the quarterbacks. And Arizona, from what we hear, likes Ty Simpson. So I think a likely trade, even though it's interdivision, I think Simpson or Arizona moving from 34 to 32 for Simpson would make sense, or maybe even a little higher if they're worried about like the Jets beating them to the punch. Okay, so you want to speak out of the final 4 picks there?
Yeah, I struggle with the O linemen and trying to work out which ones are going to get in. It would really surprise me if all of Miller and Lomu and Iheanacho all make their way in, but you have to think at least a couple of them do. I don't think that Lomu really makes a lot of sense there, but given they already have Will Campbell on that side, but they need something. So it's more just trying to take the remaining guys that I have available and trying to fit them into spots, even if they don't perfectly fit. On the other hand, pretty much everyone I've seen has Colton Hood as going to the Seahawks. I think you're the exception. I think you're the only one of the mocks that I monitored that doesn't have Hood going to the Seahawks. And I think your idea of them trading down makes a lot of sense as well. In fact, I think it's probably the most likely outcome.
They had picks 32, 64, 96, and 188, and that's it. So whenever a team has 4 or fewer picks, they tend to want to really trade down, and Seattle has done that a lot. So I could really see that happening. I think Brandon Cisse makes a lot of sense for them for like what we from the type of cornerback they draft. And Kim McNeil bringing up Rob Rang. He knows the Seahawks pretty well. He's been a mock drafter for a long time. So yeah, he likes Abney and Chris Johnson there. And Pons, yeah, too. So yeah, those make sense. Any like tall, lanky cornerback, I think would be a logical fit. And Cisse fits the bill there too. Cash Howell might be 30 picks too soon. So I feel like I've heard positive and negative things on Howell. Like I think he's a good player. His arm length was very short though. I don't know if teams are that concerned, but then again, Ruben Bain's arms I think were even shorter than Howell's. So it's Bain is an interesting prospect because he didn't test that well athletically and he has short arms, but like the production was insane at Miami. So I don't know. Like you have to wonder about the upside, but maybe there's a higher ceiling. Maybe he's just going to be like a solid player, never great. I don't know. Any thoughts on that before we move on to the next slide?
I mean, I think the issue with guys like Bain and Mesidor is that they're opposite each other. So they're making life easier for the other guy just by existing. A lot of these guys have no talent around them and they have to operate in their own little bubble where they're getting double teamed half the time. That's never an issue for Bain and Mesidor. And you saw that in games where one of them could have an off game and the other guy could explode. And then as soon as they focus on that guy, it opens the other guy up. And that happened quite a lot of the time because I had Mesidor in fantasy last year. So I was really taking notice. It wouldn't surprise me if those two end up being overpays. As for Hal, I would be shocked if he's not taken around the end of the first round. He could drop into the second, but regardless of how you feel about the talent, the teams like him, and that's really what matters.
Yeah. Houston McDonald, is that a good fit? I think any defensive lineman makes sense for them. Do you agree?
Yep, absolutely. McDonald would make total sense. I think he probably goes earlier.
Yeah. Thoughts on Mike Washington at 32 and more insane? Well, they could take Mike Washington with their first pick, but they could trade down for 32 to 40 something and then take him there, They don't have to take him in the first round. Like there are a bunch of running backs who can go there, Jadarian Price, for example, a couple others. So yeah, I think taking Washington to 32 would be too soon. But yeah, but look, if they're on the clock and it's a diminished time, it's now 8 minutes instead of 10. If they can't find anyone to trade up and they really feel like they need a running back, they could take Washington. I personally wouldn't sweat it. I think that running back is such a replaceable position, and you could get one. You can get a good one second round. Hell, you can get a good one in the fifth round. So I think. I said they have 64. I think that they should take a running back at 64 personally, unless they trade down to the 40s and then they could take one there. Okay. Is Omar Cooper still looking like day two? His over under is 23. I think I have him early round two to the Raiders. So I feel like it could go. It could go either way. Charlie Campbell actually posted a hot press about it, talking about how like some teams view Cooper as round two, but that doesn't mean he's going to go round two. There might be a team that likes him round one. And remember, this is not a strong draft class, so there might not be like a team might say he's a round two prospect, but if there's only 20 round one prospects, then he can go 20 in the 20s. So yeah, that makes sense.
I think. If you look at those last 8 teams, and that's kind of the range we're really talking about for a Cooper, how many of them really actually need a wide receiver and would go out of their way to go get one? Because for Cooper to go in the first round, a team needs to either really love him or be going out of their way to get a wide receiver. And I mean, the Chiefs need a wide receiver, but not desperately. And the Dolphins could definitely use a wide receiver, but there's way more value in taking that earlier pick. And the Patriots kind of need a wide receiver, but they don't seem to believe they need a wide receiver, and that's really what matters. So I'd be surprised if a team goes out of their way to get one. I think there's other players that could equally go in that range. So I think it's more likely than not that he either goes late in this range just because there's no other good option, or he falls into the second.
Yeah, if the Chiefs need a receiver, it depends on if Rashee Rice can stay out of jail. We'll see about that. Because apparently he's going to be free from this latest thing, but who knows? Who knows with him? And I think the Patriots, they probably don't think they need a receiver because I think that they're going to trade for Brown as of June 1st. So if they know that they're getting Brown, then they Brown and Dobbs and Keyshawn Butte, and they still have Kyle Williams if they still believe in him. So we had a question about are the Bills. Someone posted the Bills going to 3-4. Yes, yeah, they are. They're switching 3-4. Do you see Simpson falling late to the second round if he doesn't go first round? So that is our next slide, which is players omitted from this mock draft. So Ty Simpson, Casey Concepcion, Cooper, Miller, Hennicore, Banks, Cisse, and McNeil Warren. Which of these? Well, first let's talk about Simpson, because I don't have Simpson either. I have him going to the Jets at 33, but ultimately, I'd be shocked if I don't have him going 34 to Arizona, but with the caveat of them trading up into the end of the first round for him. Is that what you think is going to happen, or do you think Simpson will go round 2?
I struggle with it. I think if he goes round 1, it's going to be very, very late round 1, and it's going to be a team trading up into round 1 to get him. I don't buy the Steelers taking him. I don't buy the Dolphins taking him. Mm-hmm. Having said that, I don't think he really has first round talent either. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. I think there is going to be a team somewhere along the lines that's going to take him. I don't see a Shedeur Sanders style drop because I don't think there's the same personality question marks. Mm-hmm. But I do think that second round is more likely. In fact, I've bet only one quarterback in the first round already, because I think it's the most likely outcome and because the odds are fantastic.
Well, I hope Dan Orlovsky wasn't listening because he's probably crying right now. I don't know if have you paid attention to any of that? I mean, I don't know if you get that.
A little bit.
Australia. Okay, so you've seen him say that he talked to 15 NFL GMs somehow, and they all said that Simpson is better than Mendoza. And then I don't know if you saw the interview he had with McAfee, where Pat McAfee's like, well, what Mendoza had was better in big games, and then Orlovsky said, "What big games?" And it's like maybe the college football playoff or the Big Ten championship. I don't know. So that's insane. Under 2.5 safeties is still 2-1 if you think McNeil Warren falls to round 2. I think Thieneman could fall to round 2. Ben said earlier that he thinks 1 safety is more likely than 3. I agree. We saw it last year, and I think Menwari is a better prospect than Thieneman and McNeil Warren, and he fell to round 2. And Starks almost fell to round 2 also. So yeah, I want to bet that. I haven't yet because I don't know if it's on Kalshi, and if I drive to New Jersey to bet it elsewhere, I think I would need other things to bet on because I don't want to travel an hour here and back in total to just bet on one thing. Just seems like a waste of time. So I do like the bet though. So anyway, the others, the other guys you have here, there's 7 others. Which of those do you think is most likely to end up in your first round?
I think Casey Concepcion probably will end up in the first round. In fact, I think I'll probably mock him there next time around. Teams seem to love him. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if he goes ahead of Boston. And I think that he's the guy that teams look at before they talk about Cooper. I think the fact that he offers a little bit of safety because he's such a good returner that even if he doesn't work out as a wide receiver, you can use him as a return specialist immediately, and you're at least going to get some value out of your pick. But he just seems to be a player that teams love. So he's the guy that I think near definitely goes. It also occurs to me that I put Blake Miller here, even though I ended up mocking him. I changed it at the last minute. Yeah. But yeah, I think him. I think one of the O tackles will fall out. I don't know which one. But they're the main ones that I think are going to be interesting. The others I mentioned because a lot of other people are mocking him in the first, but I'm very comfortable not having them there. I'm comfortable not having Banks. I'm comfortable not having McNeil Warren. I'm comfortable not having Cooper, and I'm very comfortable not having Simpson.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's a chance all these guys fall out. I do think Concepcion is most likely. Well, yeah, Blake Miller obviously said, but I think he's most likely to go in the first round. I'd like him. I think that he's going to be a good player. I feel like he's going to go in the 20s at some point. But yeah, so yeah, that's a great mock draft, and hopefully, I don't know what your availability is, but hopefully we get an update. But we'll see. We'll talk about it later. Yeah,
that's a guarantee. So, putting it on tape now. It's a guarantee. It's happening. Hold it against me. Definitely happening.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. What about Lee Hunter? Saw Charlie had him mocked to a couple teams. I have him early second round. I feel like he could go early second round. Any thoughts on him before we move on to the next thing?
I think if the concerns around Peter Woods are legit and teams really feel like he's someone they can't trust, then I can imagine someone like, I don't know, in those mid-20s taking Hunter. Having said that, for me, he's the number 4 tackle and a defensive tackle, and I think probably only 2, maximum 3 go in the first round.
Okay. And if you think a tackle fall out of the first round, then under 7.5 offensive linemen is like plus 150. Does that interest you?
Yeah, it does. In fact, I've bet that.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, let's look at more bets. Why not?
Yes.
So give me 1 second to pull this up. I think this should be it. All right. I've to get out of here and go here. All right. So, like I said, I can't look at DraftKings or FanDuel because Pennsylvania is a stupid state where you can't bet the NFL draft. And that is why I had to travel to New Jersey all the time to enter in Rainmakers lineups and also bet the draft. I always went to the Trenton Thunder baseball stadium and the guys, the security in the parking lot, as you said, Ben, earlier before we started recording, they probably missed me. And they're like, where is that weird guy who always showed up and parked this car for 10 minutes and then left and didn't do anything? So I don't know if they missed me or maybe they didn't even notice me at all. And if they didn't, then they're doing a bad job. Why not round 5 Luxador? What is that? I'm not sure when reference to. So anyway, we're going to go through all these. These don't seem to be like in any particular order, so we're going to be kind of like bouncing around here. So we'll just go sequentially here, and we'll skip the number 1 overall pick because if you want to bet 98 cents to win $1 on Mendoza, you can do that. I wouldn't lock up my money like that. So number 2 overall pick, we have Arvo Reese is 53 cents. So if you don't know, it's 53 cents, and if it occurs, it goes to $1, and it kind of plays out to what is it, about minus 120 or minus 121, looks like. Yeah, minus 121 for Arvo Reese to be the number 2 pick. So he's still favored here, even though Bailey is the favorite in other places. So if you want to bet Bailey here, and you could see I have done so. And again, it wasn't a big amount, but yeah. So I bet him at 22 cents. He's now 41 cents. So I could cash out and get a profit, but I think I'll keep it. So Bailey is at 41 cents, and the Baines 6 cents, Sunny Styles 3 cents, Mendoza 2 cents, Love 2 cents, and then you have a bunch of 1 cent guys. Are you looking to bet either of these, or do you think it's a true coin flip and you can't do it?
I think I need to look into it a little bit more. This has all happened in the last day or so, and I haven't been online much in the last day or so. It surprises me a little bit that it's happened without much fanfare. Having said that, I think there was always a question mark of Reese versus Bailey. We really had no reason to mock it in that order other than just what we were hearing around the place. And I think the real question mark is what the Jets thought, and I don't think anyone really knew that. And now we're starting to get some reports suggesting that Bailey might be the guy they like. That doesn't shock me at all. I don't think Reese is definitively a better player than Bailey. They both have plenty of knocks on them, but they both have plenty of talent, and it's going to be really a question of which one the Jets decide they want to take that risk with. And if it turns out to be Bailey, I actually expect we'll hear days in advance of the draft.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Okay, so we'll go back again. We'll skip number 1. We'll go to number 3, which is kind of the opposite of number 2. As you can see, I bet Reese here at 16 cents. He's now 29 cents. So Bailey is still the favorite to go number 3 at 33 cents, but Reese is 29. Malinoa, though, 15 cents. I think that's the difference here, as we have a third option. Spencer Fano down to 5 cents. We had Jeremiah Love at 10 cents. I really don't see running back here. And then Bain at 6 cents. So what are your thoughts on the 3 pick? Is it kind of like 2? But then again, you have the caveat with Malinoa here too.
I think Malinoa is very interesting. The issue is that if you look at like sharp mocks that I actually trust, and there's really only five or six of them, and unsurprisingly, Walt and Charlie are 2 of them. You end up seeing O tackle there half the time, but I think that's the case of a lot of people mocking the Cardinals an O tackle rather than mocking the number 3 pick an O tackle. If we were predicting who the Cardinals will take, then I think O tackle makes a whole heap of sense. But we're picking the number 3 pick, and I think that's significantly more likely to be an edge rusher because this is the spot where teams are going to go up and hit. We've already heard reports about the Cowboys coming up to this spot to try to get a guy. I think the Commanders could end up coming up here, especially if it's Reese, who I think a few more teams tend to like. So I think edge rusher is by far the most likely. The odds suggest that. So I think if you're interested in the Bailey versus Reese argument, you go and bet the number 2 pick. Unless you really feel like the Cardinals aren't going to trade down, in which case you take Mauanoa, I would be avoiding this.
Okay. Yeah, so I like the price on Reese, but not so much now. But again, Arizona's a team that we do get info on. So I will, if I hear anything, I'll definitely let you guys know. But I only bet that on speculation, nothing else. Raiders trading to round 1 for Cooper to reunite. That's what I had. Not moving up, but it could happen. But yeah, that's why I had him drafting Cooper. We've seen that a couple times. Like when the Colts drafted Andrew Luck, they took his tight end from Stanford. So it happens sometimes. Love could go 3 in the event of a trade. I don't know. I don't really see it happening. I don't know. It's not impossible, but I don't like it. Love top 5 is -150 on most sports books. Another great bet. Do you agree? I do like that as well.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if Love makes it past 5. I think the Giants would take Love if he's there, just because they think the value is too much to pass up on. I don't think it makes any sense. But since when have the Giants always made sense?
Yeah, we Patrick and I talked about that last week. Lee Hunter to Houston, Cincinnati, or yeah, I mean he makes sense to those teams. You know, if they don't take a defensive tackle 10, they can go Hunter in round 2. Maybe they don't really move up, but if they did, they could do that. Or Houston, the first round, late first round makes sense too. Yeah. All right, let's get to the next one here, and we look at number 4. And so this really cracked me up. So we had Charlie Campbell on a few weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago, maybe 3. But he said on air that he thought Jeremiah Love would be the best bet here at number 4, and the odds moved to like 52 cents. He moved the number like very quickly, and then Adam Schefter went on air and said he didn't think that the Titans would draft Love, but I don't think that was based on any inside info. I think that he was speculating because Schefter and Rappaport, they do a great job of reporting like free agency signings and whatnot, and that's because they talk to the agents. They tend to not talk to team sources as much because they don't want to spill the beans to those guys. So anyway, Love is back down to 35 cents, which I like. And I haven't bet that yet. Like I said, I want confirmation from Charlie before I do. And I don't know if this line is going to move anytime soon, but I hope it doesn't. I might bet a little bit now and then bet more later. And then we have Bailey at 14 cents. So for example, this would be about 5 to 1. And then we have Ruben Bain 11 cents, Carnell Tate 11 cents, Reese 9 cents if he somehow drops here, Sonny Styles, etc. What are your thoughts here in the 4th pick?
I think a lot of those guys are highly unlikely to happen. I think Tate would be a surprise. I think Bain would be a surprise. I think that's just a little bit too early for him. I think the question mark's going to be, does a player fall to this spot that the Titans just love, or do they just take Love? I think they're the 2 options, and I think they're more likely to take Love. The only situation where I can imagine that not happening is if the Cardinals stay at 3, they take Mauanoa, and then all of a sudden there's a Bailey or Reese available, and the Titans take him here. I can't imagine any other players get them excited. I think Sonny Styles is an outside chance here, just because I think there's a lot of excitement around him. And it's not outside the realms of possibility for the Titans to get overly excited by that. But I would definitely bet Love here.
Styles is plus 925 if you have interest there. I don't know how that lines up the other sports books. Again, I can't see them. So I can, the only way I can is if I open up my VPN, but if I do, then I'll be kicked off this live stream. So that's not ideal. All right. Next one is number 5 pick. So this one is more up in the air, although Styles is high at 37 cents. That's I didn't think anyone would be that high here. We have Mauanoa 18 cents, down 17 cents, Love 14, Fano 9, Tate 8, Delane 6, Reese 4, Jordan Tyson 3. We have a Awane 8 cents, someone that moved a little bit. I can't see him go 5. And then a bunch of guys at 2 cents here. What are your thoughts on the 5th pick? And I will say this, I think we're going to get info on this one. What are your thoughts here?
I think Styles is the popular pick at the moment. I think outside you and Charlie, most mocks that I look at have Styles here. I think it makes sense, but I also don't think the odds are quite as high as you would think based on the majority of people mocking. There's more of a situation where people have a play they think should go in a range, and so they mock it to a team that doesn't have a clear need. I could equally see Moanoa going here. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I know a couple of people like yourselves have Fanu there as well, so I think that's equally possible. So I would be avoiding this at the moment because I just think there's so many options and none of them really obviously stand out.
Oh, yeah. So as Patch says, Styles of 4 is plus 70, 750. So you get good odds at Kalshi. Kalshi usually has the best odds because they're not a sports book. You're betting against other people, not the house, which is very nice. And then the new coach is the defensive guy, won't he go defender? I found that I did the research on this a long time ago. And so this might be dated. I think I did this in like 2010. But I found that when there's a new defensive head coach, they tend to go offense in the first round, and vice versa. If there's a new offensive coach, they tend to go defense in the first round. And the thinking there is that, like, if you're an offensive coach, you're like, oh, I can make this work. I'm an offensive guy. I can make this work. I need to take care of the other side of the ball because I have no control over that. So I think that's the thinking there. I don't know how it's held up the past 15 years since I did that research, but in 2010, that was the case. It was more likely to go the opposite guy. I don't know how special teams works, i.e. John Harbaugh. So I don't know how that pans out, but it's usually the opposite. Anyway, we have so here this was I'll mention this real quickly. We're not going to dwell on this. Protein to make the first overall pick. So Raiders are 98 cents. There was something strange here in, I would say, late February, I think around the combine, where the Ravens rose from like 0% to 4% like overnight. And I'm like, did someone have inside info? Like, are they trading Lamar Jackson to trade to the Raiders to the number 1 pick? And so I actually made a video about that. I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen, but like someone thinks it will. And then now they're back down to 0. So I don't know if there were any discussions here. Yeah, they're like, if you want to bet this, here you go. So you want to bet $100, you win 9,200. So go ahead. So yeah, I mean, I just wanted to touch on that. That was very strange, I thought, but like maybe there were some discussions and someone knew something, or maybe someone was just messing around. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, we go to see, this is out of order. It's like 6, 10, 8, 9, 7. I don't know. Maybe we'll go sequentially here. So we'll not screw people up here. Number 6, Cardinal Tate is the favorite at 35 cents. Monroe Freeling 12. Fano 15, Mauanoa 11. So you have that. So if they do go Mauanoa, that's plus 583. Sonny Styles, Caden Proctor, Styles 9, Caden Proctor's 10, Bain is 9. It's like all over the place here. It feels like that people don't know what the Browns are going to do outside of either tackle or receiver. What are your thoughts here?
I don't hate the odds of Tate here. I think there's been enough reports now where I think that's a little bit interesting. I think it's kind of on the cusp of whether I'd actually think about betting it. I'd probably want it to be a little bit lower, but that's not the direction it's going to go in. I think the benefit of this pick previously would have been that there was a lot of talk about Freeling going in this pick, and that was just never going to happen. And so for that reason, you were getting really good odds at this pick at one stage. That's not really the case anymore. But I don't think Mauanoa is a crazy pick. You're probably getting like 8-1 or something like that with that.
It's plus 583 because what happens is it says 11 cents, but there's not much money on this. So by the time you bet $100, it goes to 14 cents. So that's how that works. Yeah.
I mean, in that case, I still think Mauanoa is interesting and Tate's interesting because there's so many other names who aren't likely to happen that are kind of getting mentioned here. But we also need to remember there could be trades. There could be any number of things otherwise happening here. So this isn't one where I'm excited to bet on it.
Yeah, and not right now, certainly. Let's go to 7. Sonny Styles is the favorite. I think I like that fit here if he's available. It's 24 cents. Love is 21. Downs is 14. Tate's 15. Bailey's 10. Bane is 9. Sadiq 5. Delane 12. And then we have Mesidor, Reese 7 and 5 respectively, and so on. Caleb Banks is 11 cents. Weirdly, I don't know why. There's probably not a lot of volume on this. It's my guess. What are your thoughts on the 7th pick?
I love Bane's odds. Honestly, I don't know how much money's actually available on it, but Bane, assuming that's
plus 669.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good because I do think the Commanders are highly likely to go edge rusher. I think there's a very good chance that we see those top 2 guys go. If that occurs and the Commanders don't trade up to get their guy, then I think Bane's probably the guy they end up taking because there's not really another guy. Falk's not particularly close there. Bane's the clear number 3 guy. This is the range you're going to see him go in. So I actually kind of love those odds.
Okay, yeah, they seem like pretty good odds. I don't know if we're going to get info on this, but hopefully. Sports will come out with a draft position Freeling around 13, 14. I think that would be a great bet. We'll see. They usually only do 10, but you could maybe find an odds on where he's gonna or which team is gonna take him. Maybe. Yeah, I heard Titans are not a Bane team. Someone said that. I think it was Dana Jeremiah. I think he said that. Yeah, anyway, yeah. Okay. So that was 7. Let's go to 8. So Carnell Tate is the favorite here as well at 22 cents to the Saints. And that's what you have in your mock. Delane 18, Sonny Styles 9. We have Ruben Bain at 18, Jordan Tyson at 9, Proctor 11, Bailey 13. That'd be weird if you fell that far. Lemon 9, Downs 7, and Mauno at 8, Love 10, Jermad McCoy 13. What are your thoughts on the 8th pick?
It's hard as you start to get further and further down this far out because we don't have enough information about the earlier guys to knock them out of contention for these picks. Mm-hmm. None of these guys are really obvious values. I'm surprised Delane. I think the biggest surprise here is that Delane's that high. I don't think that's an obvious need for them compared to some of their other needs. I think Sadiq's really interesting. Is there just not money on that? Or I'm surprised that's that low because there has been a little bit of conversation about Sadiq maybe going here.
It moves the 9 if you bet $100 on it. So it looks like plus 900. So 9-1 on Sadiq. So it's deceptive. Like later as the draft approaches, this is gonna be a lot different. It's not gonna be like this. So but there's just no volume on this right now. Because I think they had top 5 for a while, but they didn't have 6 through 10, and I think they released that like a week ago or so. Still 9-1. What do you still think that's pretty good? 9-1.
I'm just having a look on my Australian sports books, and I'm getting Sadiq at like 18-1 to go with the 8th pick, which is pretty fantastic, honestly, because I do think he's the kind of player that could go way higher than we expect, and I think the Saints make sense. Will it happen? I mean, probably not, but I think the odds are higher than 6%. So I think that's interesting. I don't think Tate's crazy either, but don't love the odds enough to actually do it. I'm not like crazy about that. Sadiq is interesting though at 18-1 though. All right, number 9. So we have the Chiefs here, or who knows if they trade out, but we have Delane is the favorite 19 cents. It makes sense given the corner. Actually, Ruben Bain is the favorite 21. Then Delane 19. We have Tate 14, Mauanoa 14, Sadiq 14. Fano 15, Downs 13, Proctor 12, Tyson 10, Love 10, and we have Bailey 12, which is strange. What are your thoughts on number 9? I mean, I think that you can really see the 3 positions that or 3 or 4 positions that are most likely to go there. I think that entirely makes sense. All of those odds are basically roughly what I expect them to be. Sadiq's a little bit higher than I'd expect. I understand why they're saying that. Kelsey's aging. It kind of makes sense. But the Chiefs have a heap of needs, and I think they're most likely to go for either cornerback, edge rusher with Bain, maybe a wide receiver, but I think O-tackle makes more sense there as well.
Yeah. I agree with that. And then number 10, We have Caleb Downs is the favorite, 23. So people betting him, not concerned about the knee, which may not be concerned. We'll see. Delane 22, Styles 15, Tate 11, Bailey 14, McCoy 15, Bain 16, Woods. There's Peter Woods 15, Malino 11, Proctor 11, and then Falk 8, Deke 10, Thieneman 13. That's super early for him. Yeah, Bengals, no surprise that most of these guys are defensive players. I think Tate's the only one. If this is Tate, I'm just like, what are they doing? But yeah, what are your thoughts on this one?
I have to assume Tate is a trade, which would be surprising for the Bengals, but I mean, I can't imagine why the Bengals would go wide receiver. That's totally insane. The rest isn't particularly shocking. I think there's probably not enough money in this at the moment to make it really clear what's going on.
Yeah, I agree with that. That doesn't like pass the smell test. Okay. Anyway, so we have team to draft Jeremiah Love. And I believe he was 35 cents. Sorry, 35 cents to go to the Titans at number 4. But he's 39 cents here. So not as good. Since anyways, maybe the Titans move down one spot, which doesn't really make sense, or move up one spot, which yeah, maybe a little bit more likely, but not. I don't know. I don't really see it happening. I'd rather just bet the 35 cents on number 4. What do you think?
Totally agree. I mean, there's no surprise who the top 3 teams most likely to take him there are. I think the Giants odds are ugly. I think the Tennessee odds aren't tight enough as it is. Washington could easily trade up, but I don't think it's likely. I think they're more likely to go edge rusher. So I think none of that makes sense from a betting perspective. And I think, again, that's just not tight enough to really learn enough about what they're actually thinking.
Yeah, I don't like this. All right, team to draft Jordan Tyson. We have the favorites here. We have Carolina 23, Chiefs 20, Eagles 20, Steelers 23, Saints the favorite at 35, Jets 14, Rams 27, Dolphins 29, Ravens 29, Browns 24, Redskins 28, Bills 21, and we have Cowboys 22, Vikings 21. It's like so many possibilities here. I don't really know. I don't get a sense of this. This is like this sort of deal is not attractive until like Charlie Campbell comes out and says, "Oh, this team loves this guy," and it's like, okay, we can bet him there. Any thoughts on this one? I really don't know what to make of this.
No, not at all. I mean, I think the Dolphins and Rams would be the guys that I'd expect to have the highest odds, but this is seeming to suggest he's going to fall lower than that, which I guess kind of aligns with the recent reports that suggest there are concerns around him. I think that's really the main learning from this.
Yeah. Okay, let's try to find something more interesting here. Teams draft the lane. Okay, I think we have a better idea of this. The Chiefs are 24 cents, Saints 21, Bengals 17, Browns 22, Dolphins 13, Ravens 18, Cowboys 11. That's pretty low. Vikings 21, Jets 21, Redskins 22, Giants 19. You have other teams as well here. The Cowboys, let's see if these are the true odds. So it goes with 14. So it's plus 582 for the Cowboys. Seems like a good price. I don't know what the other sportsbooks are, but that seems pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, I actually really like that. I think that's really interesting. I don't believe that I have that available to draft on mine, but I wish I did because I think that could end up being pretty tight at some point in time. I'm going to see if I can track that down somewhere because it hasn't appeared on any of my Australian ones yet. But that's interesting because they seem like the most likely team to draft him, in my opinion. That them or Miami or maybe the Bengals.
Yeah, I'm pretty shocked to see that sort of number here, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, if the Cowboys move up, then obviously it's not going to happen. But yeah, if they stay put, that seems like a very likely pick, unless the Dolphins take him or some other teams. So let's see. First offensive lineman drafted. So we have Malinois is 70 cents, Fano 17, Freely 10. Proctor 9, and then we have Awane 13, and then a bunch of nothings. Malinois had a retest on his back this week. I don't know if you saw that. You said you were away. So he got recalled to Indianapolis to get his back checked. Now, reports say that he is fine, but like, whose report? every team has different medical reports. There might be teams that have flunked them. There might be teams that are, I don't care. I think this is the sort of situation where you just get great odds on something because the favorite might just be completely mispriced. If there is a concern with his back, and you and I can speak to that. I think there's a good opportunity here potentially. Fano, in particular, and Fano would be actually this moves maybe this is 35%, so it goes to plus 175. Still an underdog type of bet. What are your thoughts on this one?
I'm just gonna have a look at the Australian odds because they're likely to be tighter. Yeah, I mean we've still got Fano as plus 500 as well.
Oh wow.
Okay. When I looked at this a little over a week ago, Mawanoa was plus 140, and I put the biggest bet I've ever put on because that just seemed ridiculous value because they had Freeling as the second favorite at plus 200, and that just meant that Mawanoa and Fano had fantastic odds. So I think I ended up getting Mawanoa at plus 140, and then I got Fano at plus 1,000. So things look very different now that Freeling's no longer considered a feasible option. I like Fano's odds there, honestly, even at this stage, but they're not as good as they were a while back.
Yeah. Yeah, even still, like what'd you say, 5-1 for Fano?
Yep, right now, yeah.
That seems pretty great. So
yeah,
that's one instance where the sports books are better than this. Just there's no volume here. That will change as the draft gets closer. More people are betting it. Yeah, see, it says only 20,000 in volume. So that's like nothing. It's nothing. Let's see, compare that to the first pick, or maybe second pick is better. You see 870,000 in volume. So much more money here. So that's not going to move when you bet it. But if there's only 20,000 on a bet, that's going to definitely move the odds. But like I said, they'll change. Team, what is where are we? I think I skipped this. So team, the first defensive back drafted. We have Delane 55 cents. McCoy 29, Downs 27, and then nothing else after that. What are you thinking here?
I think McCoy being higher than Downs is the biggest surprise for me. I think that suggests there is a lot of fire to the smoke of his injury issues causing him to drop. That and the fact we both know that safeties are likely to drop anyway, but I'm a little bit surprised that the market is so low on him when they were so high on him previously.
Yeah. Which tackle for Chiefs? Left tackle a possible move? Just Simmons to right tackle. Yeah, maybe you could do that. I think anything's possible here for the Chiefs. And that's why they like letting go Joe Thuney was so it's questionable because they could play him anywhere. It's like I didn't understand that move at all, and they really missed him last year. The versatility, the Bears enjoyed it. Okay, so we have team to draft Arvell Reese, which sort of covered already. The Jets are favored at 51 cents. Cardinals though at 36. I can't recall if this is better. Let me just check real fast.
Yeah, that is better.
Number 3, Arvell Reese was 32 cents. So this is better. These are better odds than the other one. So I don't know if that's worth. See, they move these around. The teams that draft Jeremiah Love here now. So no, actually we did that already. So first receiver taken. Tate's the heavy favorite, I think, for good reason. Would you any value here on Tyson or Lemon?
I mean, there's a little bit of buzz around Lemon potentially, but I doubt you're actually going to get enough money on that to make it worthwhile. Yeah. And those odds aren't great either. I think Lemon's the real challenge here. As much as I personally prefer Tyson, and if I were a team like the Dolphins, I would take Tyson. Lemon's the one that people are talking about.
Yeah, I agree with that. Team to draft David Bailey. It's sort of the same. I might as well skip that. Second receiver drafted. We have Lemon, and we sort of answered this already. So Lemon, Tyson, and Tate. As you like Lemon, I guess. You get plus 131 here.
I don't think that's enough.
Yeah.
If anything, I think Tyson's more interesting in those odds, depending on how tight they actually are.
Yeah, you get
Yeah,
plus 213.
yeah, it's still not enough, is it? I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Second edge drafted. This is the same thing. Bailey Reese. We already talked about that. First edge, we talked about that already. Basically, do you want to get to fourth receiver drafted? Where's third?
That is interesting, actually.
Yeah, but like where? Yeah, that's true. That's true. So you have Cooper 32 cents, Boston 16, Concepcion 31, Tyson 23, Lemon 12, and no one significant after that. So what are your thoughts here?
I think Boston's interesting there. I think for quite a while, Boston was considered the guy most likely to go here, and I know that's changed a little bit, and I go guys like Concepcion is probably more likely now, but I wouldn't have expected his odds to be kind of twice as good now. So Boston's interesting to me.
Yeah, I think he could definitely be that. It's wide open, I think. Only 5,000 in volume though. It's like no one's bet this yet. Team to draft Simpson. Now we have Arizona's the favorite, 31 cents. Jets 19 cents. Then you have Rams. You have Browns at 17. You have Rams at 9. Steelers 8. Dolphins 20. So it's like, okay, I guess I was about to say they gave Willis a lot of money, but so did the Falcons with Cousins. So you never know. Buccaneers 16. You have Eagles at 23. That would be weird. Bills 10. Cowboys 22. Cowboys 22. It's weird. Vikings 14. So yeah, Panthers 22. There's got to be. Oh, it's 30,000. Yeah, it's 30,000 volume. So, what are you thinking here?
I think it's really hard to get a read on this. We've seen this in the past where it's hard to predict what teams are actually doing with quarterbacks. I feel like I would be avoiding Arizona. That's all I'll really say.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so we have guys to be drafted in the first round. You have, but we're not going to get to the 99-cent guys. There's no point. Mesidor 77 cents. Again, it's like, really, what's the point here? I'll talk about guys who are around 50 cents or lower. So we have Malachi Lawrence, 41 cents. Zion Young's 54. Avion Terrell, 48. Colton Hood, Cassius Howell, 49. Chris Johnson, 42. Basantis, 35. We have Rutledge, 29. Hill, 22. Jacob Rodriguez, 21. Cisse, 20. Banks, 29. Mason Thomas, 14. Miller, 16. Bernard, 10. Hunter, 14. Price, 18. Beck, 12. Stowers, 11. And we keep going. That's about it. So did any of those names stand out to you?
I think the interesting ones to me are, Hunter's actually pretty good value there if you trust Charlie's read on that situation. But the interesting ones to me are, if anything, are the no's. I think some of these guys should probably have better odds on their yeses. For example, I think McNeil Warren was there, for example, as a no.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mentioned most. If you're not familiar with this, yeah, you could bet the no. So yeah, let's look at some of the no's. Dieneman 22. That is it's plus 303. Who did you say?
I saw. It was a bit further down. I mean, Cooper's at 20 cents for a no is actually pretty fantastic.
Well, it goes to 40 cents.
There's no volume in it. But when there's volume, it will be great.
What is the volume? It's 75,000. That's just more than I thought. But there are a lot of options here. So it's
big market, yeah.
I
think that's interesting.
Yeah, who did you say?
McNeil Warren at 40 cents is interesting because I think he's more likely to miss out than be in there. Having said that, there's nowhere near enough volume. But when there's volume, I think that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I like that. Safeties. We talked about safeties fall. So, yeah. So, okay. So let's go to the next one. Teams to draft Caleb Downs. We have the Bengals are 24 cents, Redskins 17, Giants 18, Dolphins 12, Cowboys 18. Any other teams of note? Browns 15, Saints 13, Colts 11. Colts don't have a first round pick. Rams 12, Vikings 11. And yeah, so what are your thoughts here? Because I haven't gone to Minnesota. Where's that? So 11 cents. What's the volume here? Because the still plus 381. It's not great, but what do you think?
I think there's not quite enough money in it for it to tighten up, but I think the biggest concern with Downs is because there's a risk of him dropping. All of a sudden, it opens up a whole heap of teams who might suddenly see value when they wouldn't normally.
Yeah, that's true.
So players with injuries who fall tend to go to unexpected teams more than players who are kind of taken at their talent level. So I suspect for that reason, I would be either betting on a really unlikely team who's got amazing odds, which isn't likely to be available yet, or just avoiding it altogether.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not in love with anything there. Teams to draft Lemon. Looks like the Rams are the big favorites there, 46 cents. You have Steelers 22, Dolphins 18, Ravens 23, Browns 26, Panthers 22, Redskins 21. You have a bunch of other teams. Chiefs 17, Chargers 19, Raiders 17, Jets 24. Raiders would be interesting. That would have to move up a lot from their second round pick. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think I think the Dolphins is the main one that I think is interesting. If that's if there's actually enough volume there, then
that's not bad. It only goes to 19.
Actually, not terrible.
Yeah, that's 387.
Would I bet it? Probably not yet. But if that tightens up a little bit and it ends up and you're getting more closer to like 6-1 sort of region, I think that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, I mean, shop around, see what you got. At some point, I will be using my VPN to see what the odds are. Teams draft Tate. I feel like I think we talked about them, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Teams draft Owane. We have the Ravens as the favorites with the Dolphins at 28 each, Chargers 26, Jets 19, Lions 17, Steelers at 23. I imagine these don't really have any volume on them. So yeah, because Arizona doesn't make any sense. What do you think about Owane?
I think this reflects the idea that the Ravens are the most likely to take him, and I think we talked about that a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Having that means there's no value here because what we think is what's being reflected in the odds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. First defensive tackle. We have mentioned a few guys here. Peter Woods at 46 cents, McDonald 32, Banks at 21. We have Miller at 7, and then a bunch of low price guys. Any thoughts here?
I still like Caden McDonald. I do think that Woods is looking like he's more and more likely to fall.
There's no volume here. There's no volume here at all.
We get volume. It's going to be real exciting.
Yeah. I agree. So maybe in a week or a half, check back or check out another sports book, see if you got that. Teams draft Bain, which is Saints are the favorites. Looks like 35, Chiefs 29, Titans 16, Cowboys 17, Redskins 29, Jets 20, Seahawks 15. Definitely have to move up for that one. And Bengals 28, Dolphins 23, Ravens 20. What are your thoughts on Ruben Bain?
I still love Washington there. I think there are going to be sports books out there if you can find this market where you're going to get it closer to sort of, 7, 8, 9 to 1, and I think if you can get that, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I agree with that. It just makes a lot of sense for him to go. So players who got their top 3. I mean, I feel like we talked about that. It's gonna be Reese or Bailey. Does anyone else stand out to you? Mal Noah maybe at 21, Bain 18, Styles 23, Love 18. What do you think?
I think it would be, at this point, it would be a bit of a surprise. Mauano is the only one that's any interest at all. But you need more than that.
Yeah, I agree. Third receiver, we already covered this basically. Teams to draft Omar Cooper. Let's see where the Raiders are because that's the match. So yeah, they're 14 cents. So plus 443 for the Raiders. You have the Jets at 25, Chiefs 24, Steelers 10, Bills 22, Cowboys 18, Rams 10, Eagles 18, Ravens 14. And then you have some other teams that have Falcons 18, Cardinals 18, and then you have lower volume teams here. So what are your thoughts on Omar Cooper?
I think Steelers is the interesting one here. There is a little bit of smoke to the idea that Cooper might go to the Steelers. People who are talking about wide receiver to the Steelers are all talking about Cooper, and it's not just one person. So I think that's mildly interesting. Maybe not quite at those odds, but it's kind of getting tempting there.
Yeah, plus 606 here. Imagine you can find something better elsewhere.
Yeah, certainly.
Team draft styles. You have the Giants taking him. He's 45 cents, the favorite. The Titans 21, Cowboys 25, Cardinals 15, Bengals 9, Dolphins 3, Ravens 10, and that's about it. What do you think about styles?
I think Bengals is interesting. I could imagine him getting down to 10, and it's definitely a need for them with the Logan Wilson situation. So I don't know. Maybe not quite at those odds, but they'd be the team that would interest me because I would have them significantly higher.
Yeah, I feel like that's almost his floor. I could just based on how Cincinnati loves the draft. They love like unique talents. I think he just makes a lot of sense for them. And yeah, they Logan Wilson's gone, like you said. So yeah. Fifth receiver drafted. I very quickly saw something. No fifth receiver drafted. What is that? Is someone betting that? Like, what's going on here?
Can we bet a no on that?
What would have to happen? There would be 4 receivers drafted the first round. Then like something cataclysmic happens, and then the draft is canceled.
World War III starts,
and
all of a sudden the rest of the draft gets canceled.
They're all deployed. Yes.
Yeah.
There's no draft. Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. So anyway, you have Boston, Concepcion, Cooper, Tyson. So 21, 21, 19, 15, Jeremy Bernard, 10, and then low price guys. What are your thoughts here?
I don't know. Concepcion makes a little bit of sense, but you're getting so niche in this sort of situation because you need no one to fall out of that top 3 and Tyson's a risk of falling out of the top 3. You then need to not only kind of guess who the 4th is going to be and then guess who you have next. So, I think Concepcion and Boston aren't crazy, but I wouldn't love that unless the odds on one of them specifically tightens up. But they're the 2 that interest me the most.
Yeah, nothing too exciting there. Team to draft Manoa. We have the Cardinals 26, Giants 28. And then I think these were super low volume here. Browns 34. Lions 18 would obviously trade up. What are your thoughts on this?
I'd be really interested if some more than $700 of volume turns up, what direction this goes in, because it does suggest to me that we kind of know there's really 3 or 4 teams that are significantly more likely to get him. Like the Cardinals trading down and then grabbing him makes sense. The Browns taking him makes a lot of sense. The Giants taking him makes sense. Not a lot of other guys make sense. Maybe the Chiefs make sense potentially. But there's a whole heap of other teams with odds here, so it'll be interesting to see what happens if this fleshes out a little bit later on as to what that starts to look like closer to the day.
Yeah, for sure. The team to draft Carson Beck. We didn't really talk about the other quarterbacks, and we actually had a video posted on the channel from the NFL Rough Draft. Mike Lachine has been on the show. He did a great breakdown of the quarterbacks in this class, and they did talk about Beck. So. Where do you think Beck is going to go? Is Steelers 33? And I think McShay said that the Steelers liked Carson Beck. I think he said that. Dolphins are 44, Cardinals 30, Ravens 11. We have the Bears at 11. That would be weird. Bengals, I don't know. I don't understand some of these odds here. Browns are 30. That makes sense. If Cowboys 25, Broncos 12, I guess if Beck really falls, and I guess a lot of teams would make sense at that point. Where do you think Beck could go?
It feels like Beck's going to end up in day 3, and once you get to day 3, people are just taking a backup essentially. And all teams need backups. I have heard that Pittsburgh report as well, and I suspect that's where these odds have come from. But with guys like Beck, there's probably 20 teams that have him somewhere on their draft board as a possibility if he falls far enough.
Let me ask you, is there any quarterback you like in this draft who is not Mendoza or, not even I get the sense you don't like Simpson, but like excluding those two guys, like who do you think is if you had to name one guy who could be a good pro, who do you think that would be?
I actually do like Simpson. I just don't think
Okay.
he's a first round quarterback. I think the quarterbacks tend to get pushed up in the draft. And I think if you look at the teams that are considering taking him, it doesn't make sense for them where they are. He doesn't really fit what they need. I feel like he should be kind of a late day 2 quarterback, and if that happens, then I'll love the pick for whichever team takes him because they'll be getting value there. I need someone to get value with the quarterback that they take.
Yep.
This was meant to be a really exciting draft class. There are a whole heap of names when we're talking about guys like Drew Aller and people like that who are meant to be super exciting, and it's just not turned out that way. And that to me is really disappointing. And I think Beck is reasonably the third name that people are talking about, but to me, he's truly a backup, and there's no other guys that really get me excited. But we're going to see in 3 or 4 years' time some of these guys getting starting opportunities, and I think any number of them could potentially click. I just personally think that none of them will.
Yeah, I get the sense of that as well. This draft class was supposed to have Dante Moore. It was it's speculated that maybe Arch Manning, but yeah, Dante Moore going back really screwed over the Jets, which Jets fans should be used to by now, I guess. Anyway, well, let's look at how many do these. There are a bunch of them, so I don't know how
any over unders like on draft position over unders.
I don't know. They do have first position for each team too.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So
seems like a lot of these are new and they have no volume though.
Yeah, that's the problem. So let's go to like Detroit, for example. There's $400 in volume. So who do you think the first position drafted? I would think lineman. It would be let's see. Not even that. So it would be 210 maybe. About 220, about 225 looks like. Yeah, something like minus 220, minus 227 for a offensive lineman. So doesn't seem that great.
And to be fair, that's actually not a million miles away from what you're getting, because at the moment I'm getting in Australian parlance, we would call it $1.55, but it's basically like, minus 200 sort of region.
Yeah.
Is what I can get anyway, because that is so likely to occur.
Okay. Let me just read off. I'll read off the names of these props, and you could tell me. Well, let's look at this one. Second quarterback drafted. Simpson he's the heavy favorite. Does anyone make sense to you? Like Nussmeier 13, Taylor Green 12, Cole Payton 5, Beck 10, Klubnik 12, Aller 12, Pavia 5. I think that Pavia said he didn't hire an agent because he doesn't want his money taken away. And then I quoted him like, what money? Anyways, does anyone stand out to you as a good potential bet here?
I think that the one that you're going to see pop up a little bit for fantasy is Talon Green in really deep dynasty leagues. I think people are going to get excited about him because he's going to offer so much value with his legs and with the opportunity for teams to use him in other ways that potentially if he's being used as a dual threat all of a sudden, that could be exciting. Having said that, that nearly never works out. So you're kind of hoping for him to originally get registered as a tight end or something like that, but then get used as a quarterback, and all of a sudden you've got a Taysom Hill situation. Right. So if you're in a super deep league, you might see him pop up. Having said that, I think we're seeing so many names that people were very excited about 3 or 4 years ago that will just plain not work out.
How about no second quarterback drafted? It goes from 1 cent to 23 cents. That's how there's zero volume on this. Who is betting that? Who would bet that? That's crazy.
That's amazing.
All right. So tell me to stop if you want to talk about something, because there's a million.
The top 10's interesting, I think.
Okay, players drop the top 10. Okay. Okay. So and remember, you can bet the no also. So we know Mendoza. You can't even bet Mendoza. Yes. Reese, no is 3 cents. Love, no is 9 cents. When Bailey knows 8 cents. Styles knows 12 cents. Tate no 22 cents. Maunoa no 24 cents. Boston, yes, 20 cents. Bain no is 39 cents. Delane no 33 cents. That's
wild.
Oh, it goes to 48, but still it's plus 100.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Downs looks like even money both ways. I'm trying to go down, not lower my dollars count. McCoy, yes, 35. Fano, yes, 42. That seems decent to me. It's plus 108. It's fine. Freeling, yes, is 29. Those odds have changed, certainly. Lemon, yes, 20. Proctor, yes, 21. Tyson, yes, 14. Sadiq, yes, 18. Awana, yes, 20. Mesidor, yes, 10. Simpson, yes, is 8. With Kendrick Falk, yes, 11. Banks, yes, 5. Terrell, yes, 5. Holt, yes, 5. Lamu 4, and then these guys are low. Peter was 9. Trying to find any that stand out. Why Shamless is listed?
Take the no on that. It's like 99 cents on the no.
Can you even bet that? You can only buy $4.96 worth. So
free
you want to you have free 4 cents if you want to lock up your funds for $5. You want to lock up your funds for 2 weeks and make 4 cents. There you go. Free. You picked up 4 pennies on the ground. Good job. And you locked the $5. So, and anyway, did you see anything that stood out to you here?
I think Proctor's interesting, because he's the kind of player that could go way earlier than we expect. Now, I admit those odds aren't fantastic, but it wouldn't surprise me as we get closer to the draft that tightens up a little bit, and all of a sudden you can get sort of 10-1 on that. Because if someone's going to rise and go a lot earlier than we expected, I think it's those upside athletic guys like a Proctor, like a Sadiq, who end up going in the top 10 when no one expects them to. I also think the no on Sonny Styles isn't crazy either.
Okay, let's look at that real quick. Styles the no is 12 cents. So it goes to 13, which is about the same. So plus 627. So why the no on Styles?
Because it's a non-premium position, and I feel like non-premium positions are the ones that end up falling. Now, will it fall out of the top 10? Near definitely no, or at least probably no. But you're starting to get into speculation odds around that range, and if more money comes into this, then that could tighten out a little bit more.
Yeah, the boss saying don't get Arch Manning hype. He was terrible last year. Well, I mean, he was terrible to start the year, but it was against Ohio State's defense. And then he got better and better as the year went on. Like he had some really good games late in the year. So he's number 1 in my 2027 mock draft. Is that what do you think about Arch Manning?
Yeah, look, there's a very good chance of him going number 1. Having said that, how many of those names did we have as former top 5 picks when we're talking about the quarterbacks previously? Guys like Allah, guys like Nussmeier, guys that we were excited about a year ago, and they have one bad year and all of a sudden no one's interested in them. That could easily happen with Manning. I think if you were putting odds on it right now, the odds of him going number 1 is going to be alarmingly low. But he's more likely than anyone else to go number 1. And I think that's kind of the point.
Do you remember Matt Barkley? He was supposed to go number 1 in 2012, and he went back to school, and then he went 4th round. Crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So that's what happens. These guys get more film on them. Teams like, oh, we know how to stop them, and then they struggle and they collapse. So 4th quarterback doesn't seem very interesting. There's still no 4th quarterback drafted. Players drafted top 5. It seems like the top 4 are kind of almost set. Like I don't really see that. Teams there's draft ladder in NBA. That's so random. 3rd tight ends. Chiefs first position. I know you're a Chiefs fan, right? So
yeah.
What do you think they're gonna do? Well, I mean, obviously we had your mock draft, but you have running back 24, quarterback. It's quarterback 10. There's no volume here. It's not even anything.
I think all of these markets are new. Having said that, I can tell you what we have as the actual odds for the Chiefs.
Okay.
When the market's filled out. So the current favorite. Oh wait. Okay, for some reason it's disappeared. Oh, they're a top 10 team. They don't have it for top 10 teams. Well, I take that back. Having said that, I think O-line's the most likely. I think edge rush is very possible, but I can see Bane going to the Commanders, and for that reason, I think that they're kind of going to have to shift to O-line. I don't think there's enough value at the other positions. If someone like a Tate falls to them, then maybe they go wide receiver. But they need the right player to fall before they reach for a player. I think it's too early for Delane, but they might do that. But I think that guys like Fanu and Mauanoa are by far the most likely.
Yeah, and you have plus 139 here on offensive lineman. Okay, so we have different teams here. We have the Redskins, Titans. Basically, we talked any team in the top 10. We basically talked about already. Chargers at 22. I feel like there's got to be like zero volume on this. Like,
yeah, they're all new.
Yeah, yeah, right. So Broncos, not even a first round pick there. Jacksonville, Colts. These are all teams traded. This is not NFL draft related, but Brown to be traded 76 cents. I feel like that's going to happen, but not great odds. Yeah, teams third running back. Let's look at that real quick. Actually, it's done. This is new. These are all new. So I feel like this is almost a waste of time right now. If we did this a little later, then we'll get a better idea of like what people are betting. But these are all new. Yeah. There's no volume on these. They just posted these. So, yeah. So, yeah, I think they have these seasonal stuff here. Yeah. So yeah. I guess. I mean, yeah. We're at 2 hours, so we can maybe call it a show. Unless you want to talk about anything else. Anything else on your mind?
Nothing particularly major that's popped up for me. The only interesting thing for me is you and is Charlie having Fanu well ahead of Mauanoa. Wondering what your thoughts on that are.
It is mock draft, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, let me. He just emailed me his new mock draft for Monday. Let me see if that's still the case. He has Fano at 10 to the Bengals, and he has where's Mauanoa? He has Mauanoa at 11 to the Dolphins. So I don't know. I don't know why he has Mauanoa lower than Fano. Outside of I know that he, I don't know how much I want to say about this, but like he knows that a team in the top 10 likes Fano, and I think more than Mauanoa. Now he's talked to he told me, and he mentioned this in the show. He's talked to seven sources from sources from 7 different teams, and he polled them basically. He said, who do you have as the top tackle? And do you want to predict what the breakdown was for Mauanoa versus Fano? And I'll give you a hint. There were no other top ones. It was either Fano or Mauanoa. So what do you think the breakdown was of the 7 teams?
I mean, I'd have to feel it was at least 5 going Mauanoa. It wouldn't shock me if 1 or 2 went Fano. And I know, for example, that the Browns like Fano. I know that Tony Pauline said that, for example, but I would be surprised if there's more than 1 or 2. It was
4 for Mauanoa, 3 for Fano.
Okay.
And he even said that like it was 3-3, and like right before the show where he was on 2 weeks ago, he said that the 17 reached out to him like an hour beforehand, and they responded with Mauanoa, so that kind of broke the tie. So it's pretty close, and so to him, you know, he thinks it's like 50-50 either way. And like I said, there's a team in the top 10 and not even the Browns, as Pauline said, that there's a team that likes Fano more than Mauanoa. And then you might, I don't know if Charlie factored in the back issue yet. You know, he just sent this over. So I don't know if he wrote up the mock draft before that news came to light, but that it's possible that could be a factor as well. So yeah, it's close to 50-50 despite what mock drafts have, because most mock drafts have Mauanoa going before Fano. but it could really go either way. So I get it. And it's, like I said, in his newest mock, they're only one pick apart. So, yeah. So
Makes
anyway,
sense.
yeah, they're different types of tackles, and it makes sense that like one team would have another, one over the other. It's think about the 2017 draft. You had the Bears obviously took Trubisky over Watson and Mahomes, but the Chiefs liked Mahomes better than Trubisky. The Texans same way. They actually wanted to trade up for Mahomes, and when he was taken, they traded up for Watson. But they loved Watson too. And there was a team that told me that they didn't have Watson in the first 2 rounds, which like seemed foolish at the time, but like now you're like, okay, maybe they're onto something. So yeah, teams view prospects much differently than others. It's kind of crazy if you think about it, because all these you have scouts and stuff, but like the GMs are paid millions of dollars, and yet they really struggle to come up with a consensus unless like it's the top guy. It's very, very strange how that comes to be. So
yeah.
Anyway, that team, by the way, they hated Watson. They were terrified that the Niners were going to draft Mahomes, because they thought the Niners would be a powerhouse for a long time if they drafted Mahomes, and they end up being pretty right about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's about it. Do you want to plug your website before? I thought it's usually
we need to plug that again, because that's fantastic.
It's usually I put the website at the end so I can click easily, but I pulled this up to show you, and then this is the final tab here. This is the thumbnail for those watching. This is the thumbnail for this video. ChatGPT, this is such a great job here. I actually thank ChatGPT for making this thumbnail. It's pretty great. Anyway, do you want to talk about FFDFantasyFootball.com on the way out?
Yeah, look, always trying to keep the site up to date, which is getting tougher and tougher at the moment when it's been volleyball season. But I'm now a free man, and I'm going to be very busy updating a whole heap of rankings, doing plenty of mock draft videos, and then the moment the actual NFL draft's finished, all of a sudden we're into our dynasty rankings and rookie rankings and stuff like that. So go over and check the site. We've been pretty accurate over the last few years, both in rankings and in mocks. So definitely come and check us out. And I got to be honest, I use a lot of Walt stuff to help me out as well, especially on the rookies as well, because he knows what he's talking about. That's why you guys are here. So, definitely come and check out our dynasty and our redraft rankings after the draft, and check out our YouTube channel as well. Over at just search the Fantasy First Down. You'll see all of our stuff on the mock drafts, and you can see where I differ from Walt, and maybe that will give us some good conversation topics in the coming weeks.
Yeah, for sure. If you guys can't see this, 2024 quarterback accuracy, first place. If you're looking for weekly rankings, this is the place to go. Ben has the most accurate weekly rankings. It's pretty phenomenal. So if you guys have any questions, like who should I start, definitely check out ffdfantasyfootball.com. Check out walterfootball.com too. We have tons of content. Our Emmitt Smith mock draft is dropping tomorrow. I had a lot of fun writing it. I have some new stuff, and I know we do an Emmitt mock every year, but it's always fun to write. Like I'm always like stressed out that I won't be able to complete it, because like it's like making 32 picks is a lot, and typing it as Emmitt is like, if it makes me like lose brain cells, I feel like. But it's fun, and I wrote it and it's finished. So so check that out. And then Charlie, of course, is dropping lots of content as well. Thanks guys for watching and commenting. Really appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow with Tom. Usually some tomfoolery on Friday nights. We talk about crazy things that come up in conversations, all random. I have no idea what we were ever going to talk about, and yet we talk for 2 hours about random stuff. So and we'll throw some football in there as well. So please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store, and visit walterfootball.com and ffdfantasyfootball.com. And hope you guys have a great night, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.